suffering from medical errors, not having to pay for the correction, but second of all, the accountability will make people more careful and therefore, I suspect, end up with lower costs in the long run. So we want to address the medical cost of medicine in this country, not only by having adequate insurance coverage, but we also want to lower the overall costs of doing business in the medical field by lowering errors. There are other things. We want preventative care and wellness and focused on the most concentrated elements of disease, chronic diseases, but we have to go at medical errors as a fundamental part of lowering the overall cost.
Okay, thank you. That's Governor Jon Corzine live with AARP New Jersey. We would also like to remind our listeners that we have a poll that you can take just using your telephone. If you or someone you know has been affected by a preventable medical error, you can press 1 to answer yes, or press 2 to answer no. We will be sharing the poll results at the end of the call. We have over 11,000 people on the line joining us today with Governor Jon Corzine and AARP for this live teletown hall. We're talking about preventable medical errors, and Governor Corzine was mentioning that in the state, preventable medical errors, we have a piece of legislation. We're calling it HEAL, the Hospital Error Accountability Law, HEAL, HEAL, and this law has already passed the Senate. It is currently in the Assembly. The Governor and Health Commissioner Heather Howard have already endorsed this legislation. We expect it to move forward, and this is going to prevent errors by showing a lot of transparency among hospitals. We're going to be able to know facility by facility where the errors are occurring, which should start to make hospitals more accountable and start to reduce those errors. But we're also going to make sure through this legislation that people will not be charged by the hospital should an error occur. I can give an example, which is that CMS had done a study that shows that if somebody receives, for example, the wrong blood type, they could be charged by a hospital as much as $46,000 in extra treatment and recuperative care. Governor, can you talk a little bit more about the costs that will be saved through this type of legislation on preventable medical errors?
Well, Jane, I think the example you gave is pretty clear-cut to the common sense of anyone. If someone gives you a wrong blood type because they have mixed up your records with someone else's records, or they didn't actually do the testing appropriately, the patient isn't the problem. The person or the organization that came to the conclusion of using the wrong blood type, however that error came to pass, should be held responsible for that. Hopefully it didn't lead to greater serious challenges for the patient that had received the error. But it makes no sense whatsoever for the individual who was the victim to end up being able to pay for it. Now, we want to make sure that we try to hold down the overall cost, and it is the accountability that will lead for hospitals and doctors to be more careful if they know they're going to have to pay for it. It's like getting fined if you're speeding on a highway. You need to make sure that there is accountability to those who make these mistakes, and that's what this legislation, HEAL legislation, is all about.
Okay. This is Governor Jon Corzine and Jane Margison from AARP. We're talking about state budget issues that relate to AARP members. We have over 11,000 people who joined the call today. Again, if you'd like to ask a question, you can press *3 on your telephone. We will take as many questions as we can. I understand we're getting a lot of questions about people who are living with disabilities and want to know if they qualify for various programs that are available in New Jersey. And I'd like to take a live call right now from Catherine. Catherine is from Teaneck, and she wants to ask a question about whether people with disabilities qualify for the senior property tax freeze. Catherine, are you on the line? Catherine, are you there? This is AARP and Governor Corzine. Okay, I'm sorry, we lost Catherine somehow in the mix, but perhaps, Governor, we can talk a little. Oh, Catherine, great. Is this Catherine?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Catherine. I understand you have a question for Governor Corzine.
Yes, I do. My husband is currently on Social Security disability, and unfortunately, I have been unemployed for the past year, and now I found out that I need to go on to it. The senior freeze for the taxes, does that apply to people with disabilities?
This one's simple. Yes. If you qualify for Social Security disability, then you also qualify for the senior freeze.
Okay. That is a simple answer. Maybe we've gotten a lot
And
of questions about that.
I would say that the way to just verify your circumstances, every story is a little bit different, but the way to make certain is to call the Division of Taxation with regard to the senior freeze. The number is 1-800-882-6597. But in most instances that I'm aware of, if you qualify for Social Security disability, you also qualify for the senior freeze.
Thank you. That's Governor Jon Corzine with AARP New Jersey. We are live from AARP New Jersey State Office in Plainsboro. We're talking with over 11,000 AARP members today about issues that affect AARP members, particularly related to the state budget. We're going to take another live call, we're going to address a call that we received earlier from Joan from Hackensack. Joan wants to know if her state pension is safe, Governor. Can you answer Joan's question?
I'll give another simple answer, Joan. Yes, state pensions are secure for certainly the next 25 to 30 years. And if we make the right judgments, and as we recover from the current recession, we renew our payments as we have for the last 3 years into the pension system, and take up our responsibilities in the choices that we have to make, then people well beyond 30 and 35 years will have it. We have the same issue with regard to state pensions that we have with Social Security as a national issue. They are underfunded in the long term. We need to make sure that we're putting resources into those pension systems, particularly at the time when there is strong economic growth. That has not been the case historically in New Jersey. People have turned their backs at a time when there is strong economic growth, as was the case in the 1990s, and even earlier in this decade. And we put more money in the first 3 years that I was governor into the pension system than occurred in the previous 15 years combined. Now this year we're going to have to step back from that because we want to make sure that we maintain the senior freeze. We want to make sure that there are no cuts to our efforts in providing senior services. We want to make sure that we're putting money into our educational system, because if we don't put money into the educational system, the first thing that happens is property taxes go up. We have tried to maintain the support for those programs because they represent our values, and they also are the ones that impact people's property taxes the most rapidly. That doesn't mean, though, that we've turned our backs in the long run on getting our pension system back into order. Now, I know everyone is concerned, and rightfully